The journey, almost 10 years long, has finally come to an end. One for all and all for one are gone. Shigaraki crumbles to ash, and Deku finally managed to give salvation to Tenko, seemingly as his last action as a hero. I am biased, and will always be biased towards My Hero Academia, but I truly believe that this is as close to a perfect ending as we could have gotten. The moment Horikoshi buffed Shigaraki with multiple quirks, I started fearing the inevitable reveal of Deku being an incarnation of some god, or his father being some incredibly strong hero from a distant land, which allows him to unlock some secret quirk. But no, Horikoshi didn't walk down the same road so many others before have. From start to finish, Deku was just a kid with a heroic heart that truly wanted to only save people. A heart that manages to connect and motivate everyone around him, to push them a little bit past their breaking point. That's why I also loved last chapter so much. Deku has finally stepped out of All Might's shadow and has finally become a pillar himself. Not a single gigantic pillar that holds up everything on its own like All Might before him, but one smaller but much sturdier that is supported by many other ones, not letting him topple over. And yeah, it's an obvious power of friendship moment, yet executed not only in a satisfactory way, but in a way that makes sense inside the story, unlike many before. Looking at you two, also it's a bit too early to know if that's 100% the case, but after this battle, Deku might once again be quirkless, and if that's the case, I am more than fine with this decision. Deku begins the story quirkless and ends it quirkless, making it a complete circle, further solidifying this by Deku changing the weather from raining to sunshine with his final punch, mirroring All Might from the start of the story. Would I mind him receiving another quirk at the end, something Shigi gave him during the fist bump? Probably not, as long as it isn't one for all and it makes sense. But I also wouldn't mind him staying quirkless. Also, when it comes to Shigaraki, him dying was always going to be the end result. Deku set out to save him, but being alive isn't the only way to save someone. Deku gave salvation to Shigaraki, the little boy that was pretty much pre-ordered by All for One since the first millisecond he entered into the world, and whose life was never truly in his own hands. Deku gave him the chance to destroy the one thing that actually needed to be destroyed, and then letting him finally rest with some contempt. I just never understood people who thought that Shigaraki was going to be alive at the end of the series, because let's say Deku saves his soul and kept him alive. Bro is never leaving Tartarus. Not even that, Shigaraki would be buried under Tartarus for the rest of his life. And the friends he did everything for? Well, 90% of them are dead, and the only one that survived is in prison. Maybe Spinner could still be alive, but that's not really clear. Having him live only to be thrown in jail would have felt not only unsatisfactory, but also would have destroyed Deku's whole motivation to save him. Wanting to rescue someone who was always treated poorly and alone for most of his life, and after doing so, you throw them in a cell to keep living the same miserable life. The whole message of saving everyone, no matter who they might be, that Horikoshi has been building up from the beginning, would have been ruined. But I'm glad he didn't mess it all up in the final chapters, unlike another very popular series that ended a couple of years ago. My Hero Academia was never perfect, especially in the latter part of the story. Even now, in this very chapter that I would honestly rate pretty highly, Kurogiri's/Shirakumo's arc sticks out like a sore thumb, being incredibly rushed and not done as well as it could have been. But as I said in the beginning, I am incredibly biased towards this show for all its low points, for every bad or questionable decision Horikoshi has made, for every rushed plot point in the last part of the story, even including the incredibly disappointing decline of the anime. I could never bring myself to hate or demean the series. I have been following it for 8 years straight, reading it week after week, ever since I was in middle school, and now I will be ending my second year of college. That's just insane to me, to think how a big portion of my life was spent with this series alone. My first ever manga I bought was of My Hero Academia. Technically it was the Bulgarian edition of Naruto, but I don't really count it. I didn't even know what anime was at this point. My first ever merch for a show was of My Hero Academia. Me starting to play the piano was because I wanted to learn how to play peace sign on it. And most importantly, as I have mentioned already years ago, My Hero Academia quite literally saved my life. You could say that it truly was my hero. in academia. It would honestly be quite weird not to read a new chapter every Friday, and more than likely, after it ends, it would leave an empty hole in my heart that wouldn't be filled quickly enough. But every good thing needs to end at some point. I just hope that Horikoshi doesn't do a Nisiyama and destroy the story in the last chapter.